Little Sago Boy. In the year 1930, on the remote island of Selat Panjang in Riau, Sumatra, a child was born into poverty so deep he didn't know the taste of chicken or the feel of shoes. They called him Little Sago Boy. His parents named him Tan Han Pang, after the mighty Han dynasty and the founding emperor Liu Pang. But what defined his early life was not legacy, but struggle. Childhood. His home was a fragile wooden shack, always leaking, always breaking. His father sick and lost in opium. He would wait patiently for his father to become lucid enough to teach him few steps of abacus to calculate big numbers. His mother, with Chinese traditional bound feet, could barely walk. His brother mentally incapable to function. His sister sold desserts barefoot through the streets. But it was never enough. At 12, he left school and walked into a Sago factory. "Please," he begged. "My father is sick. We have no food. I'll do anything." And so he worked, waist-deep in milky water, in a stinking sago pit, working 16 hours a day. Villagers called him Sago Pig. But he smiled. He stitched his own bleeding feet with a needle and thread, and never once complained. He had never tasted chicken, not even once. One day he stepped quietly toward the vendor. "Sir," he asked softly, "could you sell me the cheapest part of the chicken? I just want to know how it tastes." The hawker looked at him, surprised. "How much money do you have?" Without a word, he opened his hand and showed his tiny savings. Moments later, the vendor handed the boy a single, humble piece, a chicken foot, and to Little Sago Boy, it was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. Youth and humiliation. At 15, he moved to a distant plantation. It took 10-hour journey by rowing sampan boat. They took turn to row. At the plantation, he often hauling up to 100 kilo of sago on his back. Injuries were frequent. Doctors were non-existent, but older workers treated him with traditional healing, and he kept going. He once borrowed an abacus to help an elder worker calculate his wages, but his boss caught him. "You're a coolie," he shouted. "You have no right to touch office things. You're just a sago pig." He said nothing, but he always remembered marriage and early leadership. At 19, he entered an arranged marriage to fulfill his dying father's wish. He gave up love for duty. Later, he led workers in fighting for their rights. 16-hour days were reduced to 12, and under his leadership, the first labor union was born. The sailor and the trusted merchant. To chase a dream, he became a sailor, trading between Indonesia and Singapore. He saved every coin. And before opening his first shop, he returned to repay every debt. That integrity became legend. The clan leader in Singapore invited him to a banquet, not as a guest, but as the guest of honor. Merchants sent him goods on consignment, no capital needed. The Sago Boy was now a trusted merchant. Years later, while overseeing his own ship's construction, he saw an old man avoiding eye contact. It was his former boss, now bankrupt, now broken. He said nothing, because his success had already spoken. Becoming Marzuki Tanmizi. In 1967, he moved to Jakarta, where all Chinese minorities were asked to adopt native names. So he became Marzuki Tanmizi, the timber pioneer. In 1969, at 39, he entered the logging business, where even American and Japanese multinationals had failed. His first customer, Sumitomo of Japan, paid only $6 per cubic meter. He made almost nothing. He lived in the forest, endured months away from family. Japanese buyers stayed in his home. His wife cooked and cleaned for them, for free. He sacrificed and waited. The Taiwan breakthrough. One day in Hong Kong, he met his old school teacher. He sent him timber samples. The teacher soon discovered that Taiwanese companies were buying the same wood from Japan at $34 per cubic meter. He had been cheated, but instead of anger, he saw opportunity. He tried exporting directly to Taiwan for $7 per cubic meter, but trade was illegal. Indonesian banks blocked the payment. His logs were stranded. Everyone told him to quit, but he didn't. Instead, he reached out to Minister Adam Malik. "Sir," he said, "we can't let foreign monopolies control our forests." The minister listened. At 9 p.m., Parliament held a special session, and a new rule was passed. Indonesia could trade with Taiwan, as long as letters of credit came from a third country. The first shipment came through Hong Kong and arrived in Taiwan. It was the first legal trade between Taiwan and Indonesia. The Taiwanese buyer was so moved, they paid him not $7 but $27 per cubic meter. To honor Taiwan, he donated a tapir to the Taiwanese zoo on behalf of the Indonesian government. He later received the first ever International Trade Award from Indonesia. Legacy and national impact. Soon Indonesia's timber industry boomed, new tycoons rose, but Marzuki stayed humble. He hired those who stood by him in the past. The cashier who once let him borrow an abacus became his chief accountant. His concessions stretched across Sumatra. He built hundreds of kilometers of roads, today part of the Trans-Sumatra Highway. He built villages, schools, mosques. Indonesia became the world's leading plywood exporter until the crisis of 1998. Final words. Before dementia took him into silence, he gathered his children and passed on what mattered most. Not money, not medals, but wisdom. Poverty, he said, is not a curse. It's a challenge. Learn from others. Never say you are better. Don't envy the rich. Someday you may join them, and you'll understand the burden. Humiliation is fuel. We owe our rise to those who tried to keep us small. Be humble. Be grateful. God knows what's best. And then he said with pride, integrity is our best foundation. My business was built on it. You may do anything in life, but be honest. I am proud of my family, not for your wealth, but because not one of you has ever cheated anyone. We've been cheated many times, but we never became one of them. Live with honesty and integrity in every situation. He began life as a boy who worked in the mud, whistling as he stitched his own feet. He ended it as a man who reshaped trade, rebuilt forests, and redefined what it means to be great. This is the story of Marzuki Tanmizi, a name built not by chance, but by character. A man who turned humiliation into strength, integrity into legacy, and poverty into purpose. Thank you.